Hi there. This is Stephanie Piche from Red Carpet Reports in the room with, and today we're speaking with Lindsay Lanzillotta and Natalie Whalen from the Film Arcade. We also have my co-host Jordan Aquino, who's also the host of the New Mexico Women in Films Ready Set Film New Mexico. And we're going to be talking about indie films and digital platforms and distribution, something that everyone wants to know, and it's changing so fast. We brought the experts in to tell you about what they're doing and what's happening in the industry. So I will ask Lindsay to give us a little bit more about her background right now. So Lindsay, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Stephanie and Jordan. Thank you for having us here today. Natalie and I are very excited. This is actually our first co-podcast together, so we're hopefully going to hand it off well with each other. My background is I'm an independent film producer, and as well as now the head of aggregation at the Film Arcade Carousel. The Film Arcade has been a proper North American theatrical distribution company for a number of years that Natalie's been running. And now we are offering through Carousel an arm that service distributes for independent films, which I know that this is very much like a teaching a podcast, so I want to make sure that I'm clear on what that is. So I'll break it down.
Thank
so
you.
If you have a film and you're not able to distribute it or do not want to distribute it with someone like Netflix or any of the large streamers that you've heard of, or the normal channels of, like, you've gone to a film festival with your film and your film didn't sell to one of those big companies, and you're left with your film and you want to know what you should do with it, or you want to control your film because you know how you want it to be marketed best. We help service and guide you through that process. So we have been doing this for larger studios for a number of years through the Film Arcade, and now we've decided to offer it as an aggregation service as well as a distribution service, because if you want a theatrical release or an awards qualifying release or any release of any kind, we can help design that with you, and we are there to let you take the lead on that and the control of it, with our expertise advice from my colleagues, as well as from vendors that we have used in the past that are experts in their area, so that you're guided in a way that your money won't be spent in a way that you don't know where every cent is going. Because when you do pass on your film with a distributor of any kind, when they decide their own distribution expenses for the most part, which you have no control in. So therefore, when you're a small film and you know your audience, you have a niche audience, you often have the most valuable input in releasing your film that should not be ignored. Therefore, if you want to have some control, and also you yourself as a filmmaker are not necessarily an expert in marketing, as Natalie and I are not an expert of where to put something on Facebook. We don't know, but we work with professionals that help and guide filmmakers how to do this in the most effective way to get it out there, but also cost-effective way.
That's a good point. So can you tell me, as a filmmaker, and I have a film, let's say it's about cats. And
that sounds great.
Yeah, everybody wants it, right? Am I, as the filmmaker, am I going to, come to you and say, you know what, I think this would really play well on Nat Geo or some other platform because they have other cat videos? Or are you looking more for them to not be so focused on where that audience is, or should they know where their audience is going to be found to offer suggestions?
Well, I mean, obviously, if it's somewhere we think that we could reach out to, or we could help you reach out to, or
Right.
also if we think that's not a good idea, just because we know something that's currently going on in the marketplace, I mean, we're definitely there to advise on that. Like, I mean, maybe your cat movie should, be pitched to an AVOD, and that's the best place for it because cat movies are all the rage over there right now, or something like,
Right, right,
we're certainly open to helping you find what that is. I think a lot of people think that their movie belongs on Netflix. Let's be honest. Everyone
right.
thinks because any movie has ever played on Netflix, but currently Netflix may not be looking for those kind of movies anymore. And hopefully we could try and, get a beat on that from what's going on. Like every time we work with a movie, I have to call our vendors again and ask like, what's the new latest and greatest? Because things are changing all the time. Like,
Right.
how long ago was TikTok even a part of marketing?
Mhm.
So to say that valuable dollars would be spent for this movie on advertising on TikTok,
Mhm.
and I'm not necessarily an expert on TikTok, but definitely the vendors that we use would be. So,
Right, right.
it really is very like kind of up to the minute because just because also a vendor had something.
Sorry.
No problem.
I'll probably have a barking dog too. Also, just to add to what Lindsay was saying, we do like to look at the big picture too. So we've been having conversations with filmmakers in all different stages. Some of them, haven't even, they're just finishing their film. They haven't even started the festival circuit and want guidance with that and the entire process. Other ones, there's a film that we've been speaking to that, has had it up on one platform for a couple years, but wants to do another release. And when we come in early, we like to look at the big picture and make sure that the filmmaker knows that we can window the release section so that they can get, the best financial return possible, as well as reach the largest audience. So a lot of times it might be, okay, well, let's put, some of your money behind marketing and have it go for a larger price on iTunes and Amazon, the big ones at first. And then later, we could do a license deal to Stars or Nat Geo, something like that. But usually you want to take advantage of your audience that will pay to see your film, get it to them first, and then, expand that audience, put it at AVOD, put it on different platforms. So we really like to come in and just walk the filmmakers through the entire process because a lot of filmmakers in the past might have just handed off their film to a distributor, but we try to come in and really walk them through it because we do distribution for ourselves. We're also filmmakers, we kind of do everything. So we walk them through all the different aspects and try and teach them, but also just put them in the best position so that they will have the best financial return, also reach the audience they want. And, a lot of these films do have messages behind it. So we try to just kind of lift them and create as big of a platform as possible.
Yeah, because I mean, to jump on what Natalie said, it's very daunting feeling like you're alone in that process too. Or like I said, we don't have to be a last resort. We can be a first resort. It all depends on how much you want to control your message and the size of your film and what's best for your film. You should plan for this as early as possible. Like you should, implore people making independent films to put this in as a line item in your budget to at minimum be able to aggregate and promote your film in some way. And I'm happy to have that conversation. So is Natalie. We're happy to have that conversation as early as possible with someone about how much at that time that you're about to make your film you should put aside.
Mm.
Just as much as you should have insurance for your film, you should have distribution insurances, which is what I call it.
Right.
Because therefore you have options, and those options are for you and your executive producers to decide whether you be your executive producer yourself and you're paying for your film or not. Like it's really just good to know that this is actually a hard cost in filmmaking.
Absolutely. And you work with films that have a budget up to, I think, $2 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really cap it, meaning like we
Okay.
would take independent films that are higher. We've had people reach out to us that have higher budget. So yeah, I mean, it varies. We were just centering in on trying to help films that are smaller so
Right.
they're not taking deals where they're sitting behind, like, giving the rights of their film away for 15 years for, no minimum guarantee of any amount of dollars and sitting behind marketing costs. I mean, the problem is with very small films is a lot of them don't have any money to
Hmm.
actually even market themselves. So part
Right.
of this is an education, just as
Right.
you're educating people in New Mexico, we're educating the industry of independent film that this is something that you should guard with and for the foreseeable future, even holding on to a piece of your contingency. If you looking at that, which is a line item in everyone's budget, which is sometimes not big enough and sometimes it is. And like, but obviously if you know that some of that is earmarked there that you're not allowed to touch, you'd really have to think about it before you touched it, you know?
So what are some of the common misconceptions that independent filmmakers have about distribution?
I would say the first one that just pops to my mind because it comes up so often is filmmakers think that these large companies like Netflix and Hulu, that they're just taking everything and giving you a large chunk of money, when that's not necessarily what it currently is at. All the streamers are making a lot of their own content, and they also have a large library of content already. So a lot of the licensing fees are not very high. And, there's multiple situations where there's a film, we actually did sell one of our past films to a streamer, and, they take the rights for in perpetuity. So they have your film forever. Whereas like other times we've licensed them and, it's been an 18-month window, but a very small fee. So just a lot of people, usually the first question is, can you get it to Netflix? Will Netflix just take it? And we're just trying to educate them on, as great as it is to have your film on Netflix or on a streamer, there are so many other ways to reach audiences too and to get it in the right hands. So yeah, we're just trying to help educate people that there are so many different options.
So is there a minimum, if I'm a first-time filmmaker and trying to figure out costs, what is the percentage that you recommend out of, let's say my budget is $100,000. What would you recommend my budget being for distribution, marketing, those line items?
Well, I would have to say there's a few things that you would analyze about assets for your film, like what kind of film it is, and really, I could give you like a simple number, like you should have at least this much to aggregate your film with a little bit of promotion, like probably like $10,000 you should probably put aside. But in actual fact, I think usually I would try and push people to put at least 20 aside, which is a lot for a $100,000 film. But I think you really need to look at the realities, of you making a film and whether it's going to sit in your living room or not, or if it's going to be in some sort of art gallery out there where someone can pay and have the opportunity to pay for it. And also whether you are a person and a filmmaker that is going to take it all the way, meaning like, are you going to be exhausted when this is done and just wish a distributor had taken it and have to get a job and on to the next, and not going to have the actual physical time to promote this film yourself, even though you're great at it? Like, you have to just have like a realistic conversation with yourself about what kind of filmmaker you are, because not everyone is made to do all of the distribution part of their film and marketing. And I've talked to filmmakers that are like, getting their own publicity because they're amazing at it, right? Like, and then there's other people that are like, I don't know who to call, and they don't know they don't have the skills or desire to do that, right? So it will exhaust you. So therefore, you have to have an honest conversation about whether your film should be made for $100,000 or $80,000 plus $10,000 for distribution. Like, it really is a hard conversation to have. I know this, Natalie knows this. We're independent filmmakers that hate cutting budgets, and that's like what we're doing all the time, right? So, but you really need to be prepared, like, I think is like, so that you can exercise this option.
Right. And so as you point out, this is something you have to think about at the beginning, because that is the commitment of you and your film. Where is it going to be seen? What is your plan for it? And you have to understand what that is. And this is a business of show, not a business of sharing with your friends and thinking it'll take off.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So in your experience with films, what are the, I hate to even say this or ask this question, but what's the best genre right now to create a film in, to get it distributed?
Like with,
Not like cat videos? No, just No, like horror, because I see different things, so many people are looking for horror scripts and there's, action and what have you. And with COVID, I know that kind of puts a damper on some of the things that you would want to do as an independent filmmaker. But what are you seeing some good pathways to a little more success than just, oh, I made a film and nobody's picking it up and it's because nobody cares about that genre?
I actually was recently talking to someone in a studio about this because they obviously have a lot more data than we do. And one of the things they were telling me, because I asked them the same question, what in your guys' experience, because independent is different than the larger studios, what is their experience? And they are still saying that action is doing really well, which I think, it will continue to do, especially as everyone's from home. Everyone wants something exciting to watch, and we can't leave our houses. We can't go on adventures. So we want to watch it happen. Thriller and horror, I think they do well as long as it's good, which is so hard to say. But, there's the stale horror everyone has seen before. And then there's something unique, and that will always perform well, something that surprises people and gets people to talk about it. So something that can generate word of mouth. Comedy as well continues to do well. I think what we're seeing in quarantine is drama, definitely, and like sadder stories are a little harder right now because a lot of people are already struggling and they don't want to sit and watch, another film that is really weighing them down. But I think the good thing is there's always different timing windows, and figuring out a key part of your release is just releasing it at the right time. But I would say, if it's a film you're passionate about making, go ahead and do it. But yes, definitely like action comedies, they'll always continue to do well. People do love documentaries as well. They continue to have a heyday. But yeah, the heartbreaking ones are just a little harder at this exact moment in time.
Yeah, definitely things that end on a lighthearted, like hopeful thing, like even like a horror thriller ending where it's not like, oh my God, the end of the world, would probably be more likely to be picked up right now than not, I would say.
I had watched some a short that's also in the Santa Fe Film Festival, and I didn't want to watch it because I saw the title and it was a COVID related short, and I'm like, I don't want to. But it was actually about inspirational stories of how people faced COVID and made a positive thing. Like here in Albuquerque, they had a car parade for a differently abled person who, it was his birthday, and the neighbors all were sitting in their driveways in their, chairs and talking to neighbors, yelling across the road while over 100 cars came by to wish this person, happy birthday. And so that film, explored all of the nice things that have come out from COVID. So it wasn't so bad. So I do get your point, because I don't want to screen or watch something that's going to depress me while I'm locked alone in my house with my dogs who can't.
Yeah, which I think really goes back to word of mouth, like what people are, like texting each other and like trying to stay connected in somewhat. And if you watch a movie that makes you feel something like somewhat positive, even if it's like a really fun ride that of like a thriller, psychological thriller or whatever, if it's going to get someone to pick up their phone and like me text Natalie, did you see that yet? Like, and then her be like, yeah, I just talked to 8 of my friends and they've all seen it. Yeah. So.
Right. Yeah. And I see that, you'll see threads on social media who, I'm looking for, a movie or something to watch, and I'd like to have it romantic or whatever. And you see people throwing those films out, especially things that you haven't seen. So I'm finding myself going, oh, I didn't know about that one. So, you're right about word of mouth. That does help. But you don't get word of mouth and you don't get that level of visibility if you don't put some marketing in the front. Correct?
I mean, yeah. And also like film is all about escape too, right? And escapism. So like if you can find a way to do that, to film that in your living room, or also if you're a filmmaker that is in France, like people definitely want to see something outside of your living room. So like it's the opportunity will continue to be there, like COVID or post COVID. It's just that obviously, content is rampantly needed right now.
Right.
Mhm.
So do you only distribute films, or do you do series too, like a docu-series, or, a limited series
Mhm.
for,
Well, we
uh,
we do short films
uh-huh.
as well as films, like with Film Arcade Carousel. We'll aggregate, and we'll also aggregate older titles that Natalie like mentioned before. When you get the rights of your film back too, we can also do aggregation for you as well. Which wouldn't necessarily mean that you'd want to do like some huge like splashy campaigns. It's very minimal cost to that, which is also something that everyone should think about with their films, period, too. That they're going to need to do that at some point when you receive your film back from any kind of deal. Um, Aside from that, with independent television series, we haven't done
Oh,
anything
okay.
like that yet. The other company that we work with, Cold Iron Pictures, is involved in independent television, but not distributing it yet.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I talked to some docu producers, and they're, it's, do I do this as a series, a docu series, or do I do it as a film, right? And
Mhm.
then they hear, someone, I don't want to use the N word, Netflix, says they'll pay more for a docu series over a documentary.
Mhm.
So it gets confusing whenever filmmakers are like, I'm trying to make
Mhm.
something that's going to get distributed that people are going to like. And then, um, I found that I thought I just had enough for like a documentary, but as I
Mhm.
got into it, now it's hours and hours more. So
Mhm.
now I want to make it a series, a docu-series.
Docuseries do perform really well. We haven't done them yet because we are a very new company
Right,
too.
right.
Well, I mean, the film market has been around for a long time, but this service arm carousel has only been around about a year because we've been doing service deals, like Lindsay said, with studios. We've been releasing our own films that we paid MGs for. And it just kind of came about from being in the industry and seeing so many films that we love not getting great deals, that we
Oh,
wanted to
sure.
basically be the option, be like, okay, well, if we can do it for a studio, we can just, shrink it and do it for an independent filmmaker as well and give them the same level of service. But even though we haven't done a docu-series yet, I would say we would always explore everything too, because we can usually get pretty much anything done.
Mhm.
It's just not something we've done yet.
It's
Right.
true. I think we're definitely open, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if there is enough content that I think warrants a whole show, I would say it's really just do whatever is best for the project. If you're trying to create more episodes and it really would be better as a 2-hour documentary or something like that, then there's your answer. But if to actually delve into the whole issue, as documentaries usually are, quite complex, then yes, open it up. And the good thing about there being different platforms and things not being just on television now are there aren't those old brackets of you have to fit in an hour and a half time slot with commercial
Mhm.
breaks.
Mhm.
You can have different size episodes, you can have a different length. I just say do whatever is best for the content and the story. And if the story works, buyers can be adaptable.
So what are the criteria that you look at whenever somebody's come to you for help with, their distribution of their project?
Like the criteria of the film, like what they should
Well,
have
what are some of the
prepared.
things that you need to have you look for whenever somebody's come to you with their project? I
Well,
mean, what
on a
are
very yeah, on a very base level, we like to look at whether it would pass for quality control
Mhm.
too, because independent films, they need to, they still need to be able to pass for sound and picture
right?
quality and all of that. And I mean, for the most part, we haven't really interacted with films that haven't been done in a pretty professional manner. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't have some
No,
quality control issues that would need to be corrected, but it's definitely something that we look for. We also, we are looking for underrepresented films as well. It's a personal and professional goal for the company that we'd like to try and prop up as many filmmakers that feel like they don't have a home for their film, but it's also because they haven't had the resources or possibilities, which is why we like to be so transparent, and like why on our website my email is there and our phone number is there. It's the whole idea is that you're supposed to be able to get in touch with us. It's not supposed to be some wall of like you need an
Mhm.
agent to call us.
mhm.
So But
I mean,
yes, some of those base things. Yeah.
right. No, that's good to know, because I think part of the mystery of what happens after I made my film is that they think that you have to now wait for, either somebody to call you or your agent can go shop it around or whatever. I don't know that they don't even have an agent,
Mhm.
and they don't know, where to go. So do you partner with film festivals, or how do you get the word out about what you guys offer and how this is a benefit to independent filmmakers?
We have contacts at a lot of film festivals just from playing our own films at them. So, last year during quarantine, we just emailed a lot of the festivals that we've worked with, that we've played with at the past, larger film festivals to smaller festivals like Napa and different ones, and just emailed all of them, just saying, here's a little bit of information. I hope you guys are all able to do virtual fest this year, if not in person ones. And if you have any filmmakers that tell you they're looking for a home, we'd love to connect with them. So we kind of just went through the programmers to reach film festivals. And then also, as film festivals have started to come back or play virtually, we've just been reaching out to filmmakers. Like one of the films that we're working with played at film festivals, and Lindsay found them and connected that way. So we're pretty good at reaching out to people, because we go to a lot of film festivals, we watch a ton of movies. And if there's something, that sparks our interest, or we see a filmmaker or a film that should be seen, we usually just reach out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting, because you do watch a lot of film. You do. Are you surfing the Film Freeway website to see what's
I'm
entered?
very familiar with that one, yes. Been the submitter and the watcher for many years.
So would you say you reach out more than people reach out to you to get help?
I don't know. I think a lot of people are still learning about what we're doing, right? So it's a lot. And to be honest, as we've mentioned COVID a few times, it's been a real challenge not having that opportunity to, walk by someone at a film festival, or just, naturally meet from, Natalie being out with, some of her like colleagues from old jobs or anything, you know what I mean? Like that whole like natural networking is so strange that I've been using it as an opportunity also then to pivot and like obviously reach out to people at cold reach out to people, which I don't mind doing at all, but it's one of those things that it's like you need to have a conversation because we've never met in person, so it's like it's it's a time consuming process, but it's also at least it's having connecting with people at a time where it feels like the connection is quite distant.
And we've had many phone calls too, where sometimes it's hard to tell too where the film is at, distribution wise or rights wise. So we've had so many conversations too where we might get on the call and find out that they're selling a certain amount of rights, or they have these offers, and a lot of the time we're usually just walking them through and giving them our opinions, even if they don't always end up with us, but we're kind of just trying to be there also to be a guide and give our own opinions. And we've been through the process so many times, we know what to warn people of. And we can also connect them with agents. Like a lot of people we've spoken to don't have sales reps for foreign, so just connecting them, giving them names, and telling them what are normal prices and what prices you may be taken advantage of at. So a lot of it too is just us having a lot of calls with filmmakers and watching a lot of their movies and giving them our opinions, and then reconnecting with them a couple of months later after they've taken some of our advice and want to move in different directions or take the next step.
Yeah, which is why we started offering like more of an a la carte menu for consulting services, because you were like, well, I guess there's a lot of questions that have come up from people that were like, okay, well, then if you want us to come on and be like your film festival advisor, then we can try and do that early on. And then if you don't aggregate with us and you sell at Sundance, great. But also I'll still advise you to keep that money put aside for if you need to aggregate with someone or with us, that you would have it and you could, spend it on celebrating instead, or give it back to your investor.
Yay. So when is the best time for a filmmaker to engage with you?
Oh, I mean, I would say as early as possible. Like if like in regards to like planning,
Right.
you absolutely should. And they're also like we do offer like an early discounted fee if you want to make this as part of your actual plan, because if you are a smaller film and you know that this is what you want to do and you want to control it and you want to plan it, maybe you have a huge master plan of how it's going to have interwoven promotion with the film while you're making it. I mean, some films don't warrant that and you want to wait. But we can be part of it as early as possible. If not, then I would absolutely entertain the conversation as early as possible with your executive producers so that they understand this is an option, not an option of Grim Reaper, like because
Right.
it's not. It's just not. Like it
Right.
really is a control
Mhm.
thing where for smaller films you actually can market properly and not just sit behind other marketing dollars. And that's like it's a real thing. Like if you don't find the right partner for your film, then you should build that team. Like we're there to be
Mhm.
helpful with that team. And so your executive producer understanding that too is very important, I think.
Mhm. So, as a filmmaker, I'm at a festival and I don't get picked up. And now I'm struggling to, wow, now what am I going to do? My friends and family all thought I was going to get picked up at Sundance. But so now I'm looking around for distributors, and there's so many people out there that um, charge more for their services, or not the best option. And so I think that it maybe turns people off. So not understanding where you play can cost you more at the end. Is that a good assessment? So if I haven't planned and I'm now finding myself in a place where I really needed distribution,
Mhm.
expected that, the whole team thought it was going to happen, and we only banked on one play. Not We didn't have a plan B or a
Mhm.
plan C or a
Mhm.
plan
Mhm.
Z. What are How many options does somebody have at that point to recoup and try to ride the wave? Maybe they were like the runner up for a festival or something, and just didn't get picked.
I think at that point, that's usually where we come in and then just talk people through it and talk about, there are so many different options and we can work with any budget. We will obviously recommend what would be best for your film, which would be okay if you can pull together a little more money to put into marketing because, sometimes filmmakers are amazing and they really put in the sweat equity, as we do, reaching out to different people, posting about their film. But there also is a difference between if you do ads on social media that are like geo targeting the right people, then
Right.
you're guaranteed to reach people. Whereas, with the algorithms, it is hard of just posting stuff to really find people. But we really, I mean, we'll work with any budget. And we usually will back into, like Lindsay always says, we will back into your budget. So we'll tell you our plans, what we would love to do with your film. And maybe financially it's not possible, but what are cheaper alternatives? What can we cut, or what can we do ourselves with manpower to cut these costs? And the nice thing too is you can start seeing money back because you get a larger percentage of the back end once people start viewing it. So if you can afford a couple months of a little bit of social media or putting in a lot of the energy yourself, later when you start getting money back, you can continue to put it in. And as we've told filmmakers, it's not like a theatrical release where your film is out March 12th and it is in theaters for 2 weeks.
Mm.
It's an ongoing process. Your film will continue to be available on these platforms and you can continue to market it. There's no end to campaigning and pushing the success of your film. And a lot of times we're flexible with our releases. So something's not working, let's pivot. Let's try something else. Something is working, let's throw more energy into that and continue to just kind of be creative, and help them be successful. And, if it means that they need to see some money back before they continue to try other things, that works too.
Right. I've interviewed a lot of independent filmmakers, especially recently, and I'm during COVID. It seems like it was run and gun. It was one guy shooting with, doing
Mhm.
audio, doing everything because they had one COVID restrictions or didn't have people that could go
Yeah.
on those shoots. So even filmmakers who everybody did it for free and they produced a feature film, you know, how do you convince these independent filmmakers that the business side needs to be addressed? Because they're artists. A lot of them are artists and don't understand the business side.
With that, I mean, it usually just starts with a conversation. We at Cold Iron Pictures, we worked with so many talented directors, some in early stages of their career, some in, you know, who were very accomplished by the time we worked with them. And I think everything is just a conversation, and hearing their concerns, hearing their feelings, because also like your film is your baby. It is a
Right.
very emotional process, and it's scary to give it away to someone, which is also why we're here to work with people and not, you know, have them feel that they need to give their film away for 15 years for, especially, or if you're a financier and you've invested and it's hard to, you know, you might get an MG offer of 10,000 or something small when the film costs $100,000. So we're kind of here to talk them through all the different options. We've had many years of experiences and usually are quoting them multiple times, or we've worked with someone they've connected with or are in conversations with. Um, but it really is just a conversation because it is such a personal process and it really depends on the film. And we can give them our input just based on the film and what their concerns are and what like their goals are for the release.
And really, Stephanie, obviously Natalie and I talk about this all the time, and talked about it as we were trying to build the ideas for the company. And you know, we're filmmakers ourselves, and I'm still sitting there with a budget that I was working on last night going, I guess I should put in that distribution cost for this film and trying to figure that out. Like, it's not easy. I get it. Like, I think we get it firsthand. And I actually, and from years of not including it, I repel it myself as a filmmaker. You're like, no, I refuse. I will sell this movie. This movie is going to this place or that place, and it will definitely be in a festival after years. But the whole idea is to put that in reserve. I'm not saying you're going to spend it. You can stay hopeful, like those conversations. And again, for some movies, this is actually like a really great plan, and you should plan it out and have this as being part of it because your film is small. And then if like the magic happens of you're the one in, you know, 10 that sells at Sundance for $8 million or whatever, like then great. You know, I mean, these are wonderful problems to have, but in your execution, like you were saying, it's show business. It's a business. Like, and I think very early on, I learned, and which got me really into budgeting with producing, like how important it was to know where every dollar is spent, right? And so if you can't just ignore that because you're a great artist, like you can't. Every great artist got their art out there because someone on their team was a great businessman if it wasn't them. So like you just have to listen to some of the business part of it. I hate to say it, but it is part of it. And in fact, you can't eat without money. So therefore you need to make money, right? Like exactly. We're trying to help that, not to add more stress to the process, actually try to alleviate something so that you're not faced with, you know, the artistic devastation you feel when your film doesn't have a home.
And we have also pre-negotiated a lot of deals. So things like social media, publicity, everything. We've actually just creating a poster. We basically went to the vendors that we work with at the Film Arcade for our larger theatrical releases and basically just struck up a deal of, okay, this is what we're doing. And all of them are very interested in it and passionate about independent film. We're like, okay, but we're gonna be working with films that don't have much money. So what is the bare minimum you can charge them? So the next thing is we've already done the legwork of pre-negotiating so that if it is someone who still needs a poster, still needs a trailer, we can connect them with our person, but make sure they're paying a lot less so that you can really just stretch your small budget as far as possible.
I think what you're doing is really fantastic. 12 years ago, one of our divisions that supported web series, we had a distribution platform just to put web series on YouTube. We just made a page for the show and put all the episodes in and let it, and had the creator monetize through YouTube. So they got the views off of our platform, and they got the money directly to them. But we did that. And we also started web series chat on Twitter, which was, hashtag. So people every Tuesday, we would have conversations about the business side. And at one point we had someone share that they had been contacted by another website platform that, did entertainment videos and what have you. And they actually didn't realize that they took their videos, scraped them, and they were making all the money from people. And there's also like 15 ads on a page. So, those websites that you go and it takes forever to load up. And, and back then we're trying to, show people this is not this is not good for you. It's not benefiting you as the filmmaker, as the, the creative. And so to see how things have changed and how you have that consultative approach to helping, this is your film, here are the unique parts of your film, that these are the things that you need for your film, because it is individual, it's not for one person, but you're also protecting them from making a mistake, like letting somebody take their content and not even know that they're not getting any money from it. So I think that's so important, especially as things change for distribution, and for the smaller films. So what is the smallest film budget you guys have worked with? And let's say overall, their film was overall X dollars. That's
well, one of the ones I've been talking to that's the smallest that's come to us that is thinking about raising the money for it, it was around 25,000. So, and there was another one that I actually was kind of hotly pursuing if it didn't land somewhere because it sounded so great. I hadn't seen it yet, but it was festivaling. And I think it was made for somewhere between 25 and 50 in total. So yeah, a few of them have been really, they could find their own like niche audiences. So like I thought they were very cool, well done. Never would have known they were done for that budget. Well, one of them you might have known that a little more, but it was like a little more like schlocky culty. So like it would have been fine. Like, I mean, I think all of them had, good, like I said, those good QC qualities as well about them, even in their small sort of like contained landscape of the film. But yeah, I mean, they're really small. Like I was shocked that one of them was that price tag. So, they made it over a bunch of weekends for like a year, which is crazy.
Oh, you're on mute, Stephanie.
Thank you. Are short films good to distribute as well as a feature length film, or are they successful out there making money back for the filmmakers?
So there's a couple different ways to do shorts. We've actually been approached before. We didn't end up doing it because a lot of times too, we'll start the process, start the conversations, and then, the best case scenario happens for the filmmaker where they then do receive a distribution deal, because also as filmmakers, who have experienced this are aware, selling your film also, it takes many months. It's not a week where everyone responds. It takes buyers many, many weeks, many months sometimes to watch your film. So there's one we were in conversations with, that was a bunch of shorts that we were going to put together though. So it would be kind of around the length of a feature. So then someone could pay, the feature $3.99 or something like that and receive multiple. For short films, we also, because they're shorter, we charge a much smaller fee for that. And we've also considered working with student films too, because I personally went to film school and remembered making a short film, and then I didn't realize that buyers aren't really trying to actively pay you for short films always. So we want to work with short films too and be able to help them put them up so that people can still see their films. And we do just charge a lot less. And I think if we do receive films that correlate, we will also stack them together. It just really depends on if there are other similar films that we have at the moment that can be connected.
Okay, now this may be a strange question, and it may be a trend that you know about and I was just learning about, but how about people who make a short because they don't have the funds to make it a feature, and they hope that someone will see that short, like it, and want to then say, yeah, here, let me help you make this a feature. Is that something that
That
you
happens
see a lot?
all the time.
Okay.
It's not a film that we have at Carousel, but at Cold Iron Pictures, I work at Cold Iron Pictures as a development and production exec as well. And even yesterday, so many times I receive shorts, and they want to turn it into a feature, and it's a taste or it's something similar. It's really common, and it does just show the style. There actually is a film that we are working on at Cold Iron Pictures where the short is different than the story, but similar themes, and the directing style is going to be the same. So it's a showcase, and we saw the short and picked up the script from it. So it happens all the times, and I think it is a really good solution because if you don't have the financing to make the feature the way you want it to be made, if you can make the short and just give a taste of what it will be, I think it is a really good way to, you could also write the script later, but to be able to show that to, producers, to financiers, to agents, and help put it together.
So would you recommend because I know 4 filmmakers in the Santa Fe Film Festival, my recurring theme here, that I talked to the past couple of weeks, there are 4 that have these, shorts in there. A couple of them are based on real life, one's based on a novel, and then 2 are also, there are other high concept films. So would that be something that somebody would come to you directly, Natalie, or would you see them and say, hey, we want to help you?
If it's for distribution at Carousel and they're interested in getting their short distributed already, then they could definitely come to us, and we could help get it out there. But I think they can do multiple things. They can try to do that, and at the same time, if they don't have an agent or a manager, short films are a really good way to find and connect with agents and managers who can then help you get the film into the hands of production companies, studios, because there is the sense of like gatekeepers where it is hard a lot of time to connect to these companies, to get to the development executives if you don't have an agent or manager who knows them, because a lot of companies can't receive unsolicited submissions
Right.
for legal reasons. I mean, we have the same situation. For sometimes at Cold Iron Pictures, we can't receive something just because it is unsolicited. But I think it's a really good way to also start if you do want to make it into a feature, to connect with agents and managers to get yourself on the level of having reps who can help make this film into a feature and connect you. They also, of course, can try to reach out to executives and different people, but I mean, there's just so many directions you can go once you have a short, and I think you can explore all of them at once.
And it helps to, like, if you're prepared and saying that this is a proof of concept for a feature that you have, and you're prepared with that feature being developed well enough that it's a great example of your writing work as well, if you've written it or written it with someone, or have it or written by someone else, but just that you have that package together, that also adds to it if your short is executed very well and strong. And like Natalie said, it doesn't actually have to be exactly as the feature, but if it's even proof of concept in some way, or
Right.
proof of concept directly, like it's a portion of that feature, there's a few different ways to do it. I've seen people do that with great success.
But you should have your feature script in your pocket, right?
If you're there, it just depends on where you're at. If you are able and have already written it, then yes, definitely do both. But sometimes, you're still in the process, or especially if it is a short that you want to expand, it might be more of a conversation. Shorts are just such a good way to display your voice and your perspective. There are so many directors that we worked with at Cold Iron where we knew we wanted to work with them after watching their shorts. So it's just a really good way to show everyone your style, script or no script. It just depends where you're at and how you start the conversation.
What can you do with a short film aside from festivals? I just wrote and produced my first short, as Stephanie mentioned before, And our plan was just let it live online because it was essentially a love letter to underrepresented and marginalized communities. It's about a Latina woman who goes on a date. It's going really well. She finds out her partner, or the guy she's on the date with, is actually on the other side of the political spectrum. And where you would usually have an uncomfortable and very important conversation about representation. Instead, she bursts into song. So it turns into kind of like a Hamilton number with this Latina Disney princess type. So it's super fun. And we thought that we would put it out online and people would love it. But we ended up with this really high quality film. And now we're like, well, what do we do? So we're starting to submit to festivals, but I think it can have more of an audience for that, but we didn't have a bigger picture or an end game in mind. And I think a lot of first-time producers and filmmakers, this can happen to them as well. I've seen it happen a lot in New Mexico too. Do you have any advice or insight what we could do with a short film, or what are next steps or different avenues you could take?
Well, you're doing the right thing by starting to look at other festivals. I think definitely, especially when you're a budding filmmaker, being in these festivals is just a way to get your name out there, to connect with different people. So I would say, especially you have all the rights to your film. Play it in as many festivals as you can, because that's just a really good way to spread it. After that, there's a couple things that you could do. It just depends on your intentions. If it is something where you just want as many people to see it as possible, you can put it up on the internet. Or it could be something where you want a lot of people to see it, potentially make a little bit of money back. So it also just depends, how much money went into it, if there's financing, different things like that. You could immediately, though, do like an AVOD situation where a lot of people can see it without necessarily spending much money, but you could still make some revenue back. Or say it, premieres really well at a ton of festivals. So you think, okay, well, for the first 6 months or short period of time, we're going to put it up on iTunes for $2.99 or something like that. And then after that time, we'll also put it on AVOD or different things like that. So I think it kind of just starts with a conversation and figuring out who you want to see this film, how open you want the film to be, because especially, if it is maybe something about representation or you want as many people to see as possible, you don't want to make it cost so much money that it deters people. But there's so many ways around it. And I think with shorts, it's just getting it out there, sending it to a lot of film festivals, different organizations that might be interested in it, and just kind of getting your voice out there.
Yeah, and hopefully winning some awards at those small film festivals too. It sounds like it's really fun. I could see it winning audience shorts and stuff.
Oh, I hope so. Thank you.
Yes, please send it to us too if you want. Or
Yeah,
I'll email you guys after. It's
I could use a good breakout in song.
Yeah. If it's on, I was trying to find Zerb too. To try
XERB. Yeah. I will say that it will stick in your head. My son was cursing. I can only hear that song now. But it is catchy. It's, it's like a pop and hip hop kind of vibe. She also has the song available so you can download it and just play it all day long and listen to it and sing it.
It's great. It's great.
It's got that kind of really catchy vibe. And in fact, the festival director for the Santa Fe Film Festival is like, oh my gosh, and here's somebody in Santa Fe, that's where Jordan is, a local, created this. And actually your deadline was, I believe you wanted to have it done before the election because it was such an important message, right? And so they just came up with the idea in 7 weeks. When you see this, you will be blown away. 7 weeks, including fundraising, start to finish. But the women involved in this film are indigenous. She is an indigenous queer director who was also a fellow in Sundance script writing, I think. And her producing partner won Academy Award short film festival, Academy qualifying for Pozole, which was her short. So Jordan was able to wrangle some amazing talent to help her pull this off. And when you see it, you'll say, why didn't you call me?
No, we were flying by the seat of our pants, and it was really like kind of a miracle that we pulled this thing off. But I will say that the the creatives that I had involved, the professionals who chose to be a part of this thing, it was one of the more, I'm really proud of this project, and it was a really touching experience because we walked the walk when we made this film. The whole film is about under like marginalized communities and underrepresented um, voices, and like I said, our director is queer and indigenous. The creative team behind it, women of color, and everyone that we included in the film. It's just such a diverse group, and I really love it. So I'm hoping we can do something fun with it. But we just wanted to make it as a love letter to our community, really, and didn't have an end game in mind. But I know that there's an audience for it, so we're figuring it out as we go along. And Stephanie has been our champion. She's helped us with marketing and getting posters together, and we're very grateful for her. So
Well, after we watch it, we should definitely hop on the phone, and we'll just give you our input too. Outside of a lot of times too, it starts as us talking about Carousel, but we're not always the right home, and we are filmmakers and distributors. I know I've said it a million times, but we usually do just start the conversation on what's the best option, and sometimes it's not us. Sometimes we see a film and we're like, okay, you need to send this to buyers who are larger than us. But or just advice on people to send it to, festivals to take it to. So we'll chat, but I just first want to see it.
yeah.
Well, I think it's important to have these kind of conversations because you have someone who, had a great idea, executed this film in a short period of time to the level of production value. You'll be blown away because it is so well done. But it's one thing to have that creative side and know how to make all those things, and it's another thing to know, to really explore the planning and what are we going to do with it. Because I saw it and I was like, this needs to go out in festivals, we need to do this with it. And they're like, oh, you know what, as Jordan said, we didn't really think about that in the beginning.
That's where it should come from. It should come from an honest an honest artistic place of love for you to make something like this, because again, this business is based in art, so you can feel it when something's made with dishonesty or with intention that lies elsewhere, that isn't, then the heart of the film usually disappears. So, and often can't be executed properly, and you obviously had a team that came together with that same honest intention. So then if that's what you're faced with now, you need to have honest conversations about that distribution, which I think for a long time an independent filmmaker still feel like there's a big veil over it, and it's true. It's because there are gatekeepers, and there are we deal with those gatekeepers all the time with our own films. Everyone is struggling to get your film with the right home, and like Natalie said, we'll be honest with you about whether it should be with us or shouldn't be with us as well too. It's important to have those kind of conversations and make it as transparent and understand the ins and outs of all of the business practices that are going on, so that you can find the right home for your film, especially when it's a feature. I mean, with shorts, I know shorts have their own different path, as we've discussed, but
right. So do you just work with the finished product? You're not working with somebody whenever they're just script only then, right? So you want them to have it in production. They're just not shopping the script around. That's not where you get involved, right?
For the Carousel side, yes, because it's distribution. But on the Cold Iron side, we take projects in many different stages. We've optioned books, we've jumped on at the production phase, we've jumped on at the script phase. So on that side, it just depends if it's a project and a story that we're passionate about. One other quick side note, just referring to, I forgot that Vimeo also, sometimes if you don't have money to aggregate, because it does cost money, you can on Vimeo put up a rental, so you could put your short up there and charge 99 cents, and then the money goes directly to you. So it's also for any filmmakers who just don't have the funds for aggregations, or, you know, are already onto another project. So maybe their short isn't something that they plan to aggregate. Vimeo is a really easy solution because you set it up yourself. You can take it down, you can change the price. We did it with one of our shorts from many years ago. And it's just a really handy way to make a link that you can charge for and post about.
Wonderful. So one last question that just kind of from conversations we've had with other folks. We talked to one of the co-founders of Reverie, you know, that OTT LGBTQT site. And he had mentioned that they offer non-exclusive. So they will take your content, won't, you know, take your rights away. Are those good options for filmmakers?
If it's non-exclusive, I mean, I think always, you know, start with the big picture. What are your goals? And don't take a step that will knock you out of taking the next step. So, you know, I think non-exclusive options are easier ones. It depends too. I mean, if you are trying to sell to a larger company before you go to aggregation, I would wait before you send your film anywhere, because a lot of times they want the exclusive rights. But if you're at the stage where you're going to piece it out and do some type of aggregation, you know, non-exclusive is a safer version, just because you're not tied into, okay, well, it's here, so we can't put it here.
Right.
So I think just, you know,
You have to have a plan.
Yeah, mapping it out, and just don't ever take a step that's going to stop you from taking the next one. So think it all through, talk to people. We're always here for conversations, and just want to help people do the right thing. But yeah, that site is incredible. I think if we, you know, we would definitely suggest people putting our films up there as well too, if it's the right fit.
Great. Well, we are going to definitely share this, and also an article on an accompaniment with this and contact information. But we're also going to put it up on our New Mexico resource website for filmmakers. We do a weekly web meetups and what have you, and we get a lot of questions from, you know, people looking for help. And this has been an education. So wonderful for you.
Thank you.
To take time to share, you know, or demystify, or try to demystify film distribution, because, you know, it's one thing to make it, it's another thing to get people to see it. And that is just as important, because why did you make it, right?
It's a confusing process. So, I mean, we're always a phone call away. We have lots and lots of phone calls with different filmmakers. So we're always happy to chat, no matter where it is in the process.
Great. Well, I appreciate it. And we want to thank you, Lindsay and Natalie, for joining us from the Film Arcade. And stay safe, and we will hopefully be working with you on Jordan's film and any other films that we come across that need help with distribution. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think. So thank you again. And thanks for your time.
Having us.
Yep. All right. And thank you for joining us today for In the Room With. Be sure to subscribe and like our content, and tell your friends so they can be as educated as we hope you were today. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.